you've already mentioned some of these things, signing contracts, marriage, voting, that kind of stuff. What do you think about the fact that are there other allowances that we give to adults, first of all? And then how do you feel about saying to someone, okay, you can drink just because you're of a certain age. You don't know anything else about them just because, again, they've circled the sun a number of times. Okay, you're now allowed to drink, or you're now allowed to get married, you're now allowed to vote.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing here is missing is the experiences that you go through. So even just thinking about contracts, you go from one day not being be able to sign a contract, not being responsible for its outcomes, to the next day being completely responsible for it. So, you can imagine credit cards is a common theme, or loans as a common theme for young people, particularly, I guess, as money's become more abstract. It's not a tangible metal. It's not something in which we hold. So you can imagine one day you're just basically signing a contract. Oh, I can get money now. My parents didn't give me money, so now I'm just going to sign my own contract and go into debt, and I get to buy what I want today without understanding the repercussions of that. And I guess that really understanding that responsibility takes experience. So you can imagine one kid that's brought up having to buy food for their family, look after their family in certain situations, and then another one that gets gifted everything to them. Their experience is very different, and their experience about what money and contracts actually mean would be probably very different. So they get given the same responsibility on the same day, but with very different experience levels. And it's not something we measure. And I guess it's not something we measure because it doesn't fit easily within our social structures. So if I go back to, I know we want to get rid of the license, so we'll use contract. So it's still, a contract is an age, sits in really easy in the legal framework. It's a number. So if you're over that age, then you're responsible. If you're under that age, you're not responsible, right? But that legal framework takes nothing into account when it comes to the person's level of experience. So they don't really care your level of experience. If you're over 18 and had no experience with money and you got yourself into debt, that's your bad luck, or it's your family's bad luck. So so I'd say that's, if I was to say that there's something which is probably maybe missing, or something which would be good to put in the context of being an adult, would be experience.
That's a very good point. I'm going to stick with contracts for a minute. I'll expand on experience a little bit later, but just because you got my mind going, because I didn't come up with contracts. I didn't think of that as something that we were allowed, but you're 100% right. When we turn a certain age, okay, now you can sign your life away. You're responsible for your own decisions. And I mean, depending on your outlook on the world, that's a very scary concept, because all of a sudden you've been given this incredible power to possibly cause long-term harm to yourself. Like, it's not too bad in Australia. I'm thinking specifically about university debts, because we have like a whole bunch of help schemes, and we get a lot of grace period in terms of paying it back and all that. And yeah, if you're not earning, they don't collect any return on it. But yeah, thinking about America specifically, they pay enormous amounts of money for university, and the kids a lot of the times don't really understand how difficult, like you said, if they haven't had that experience to be paying off, be in debt to someone, they don't really understand how long that can take and how painful that can be for them. Yeah, it's really, when you start thinking about it in those terms, it's you can be very, very predatory towards people that are just becoming adults. Because that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Like, if the age is 18 that you're an adult, what's the difference? Like, you're calling a 19-year-old and a 65-year-old, and you're like saying, okay, they're basically the same. They're basically allowed to do the same things. So, there's surely there's a difference between them. Surely there's consequences to that.